Happy Monday afternoon, everyone. You're watching CBC News BC. I'm Benit Breit here in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. Here are your top stories right now. Well, we have some developing news that the mayor of Harrison Hot Springs has announced he's stepping down. So Ed Wood released a statement this morning on the resort community's official website. He thanked the corporate officer and the chief financial officer for their professionalism and said it was an honor to be the village's mayor. The resignation comes months after fighting and disagreements within council. That's all caused challenges in governing the village itself. And you may have noticed more spam calls and texts lately. The federal RCMP, along with the BC Securities Commission, are cracking down on people who move the cash they make out of the fraud to criminals. They are called money mules, and it's a common tactic in money laundering for investment fraud. Now, police announced they have delivered warnings to 10 suspected money mules.
What prompted the joint operation was that the BCSC has uncovered an increasing use of local money mules in offshore investment fraud that target British Columbians. We discovered that the criminals use a variety of tactics, including job scam.
Police say money mules are often a victim of investment fraud themselves and may not even know who they're delivering money to. Okay, and we also know that the Transportation Safety Board is still investigating a crash just off of Vancouver's Cole Harbour this weekend. So a small seaplane crashed right there into a boat, and 2 of those boaters were sent to the hospital. This happened on Saturday afternoon, and we're still not exactly sure how this happened. A spokesperson for Harbour Air said one of its planes was carrying 5 passengers for a sightseeing tour, and then it collided with a boat after takeoff from the seaplane's terminal. Now, the company said all passengers and the pilot were safe, they're not injured, and the Transportation Safety Board is interviewing witnesses to figure out what happened here. And rescuers in Squamish are continuing to look for clues on where 3 missing mountaineers could be. They are combing through all the video taken by aircraft and drones. Squamish Search and Rescue says teams have had to switch tactics due to dangerous terrain and poor conditions on Mount Garibaldi. And that is where those climbers were last seen. Rescuers say they will get back to the search efforts as soon as those extreme conditions causing hazardous terrain clear up. And it's the end of an era for a key volunteer at North Shore Rescue. So longtime leader Mike Danks is stepping down. He's been part of the organization since he was 19, and he was actually just in our studio over the weekend to reflect on his service.
Being very open and honest that sometimes we go to situations that are not normal. It's not normal to see people that are injured in that way. And sometimes the outcome can be very negative, but knowing that you've been there to support that person or their family by providing closure is huge.
And Danks is handing over the reins to a longtime volunteer, Scott Merriman. And that's it for now. I'm Benit Breit. You're watching CBC News BC. Stay with us. We got more news coming. BC Today is up next.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. An unusual but certainly frightening incident on the waters this weekend. A float plane collided with a boat in Cole Harbour on Saturday. 2 boaters were sent to hospital. The plane passengers were okay. Well, as BC waters get busier this summer, what do boaters and pleasure craft users need to know to stay safe? In half an hour, another Grouse Grind record. We're asking, what are your tips for completing this iconic Vancouver hike? I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. Thank you for joining us on CBC Radio 1 CBC Television, and we're live streaming on the CBC News app and on CBC Vancouver's YouTube page. And you can call us now on our top story. We're asking you, what do boaters and other pleasure craft users need to stay safe on the waters? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, and you can hit pound 690 on your phone. If you'd like to email, our address is bctoday@cbc.ca. Well, yes, the warmer weather this weekend certainly meant there were more people getting out onto the water for the season, and many ways to do that. But a collision in Vancouver's Cole Harbour on Saturday has people asking questions about water safety. There were injuries when a Harbour Air floatplane collided with a motorboat when taking off, skipping over the boat and immediately sinking. Now, 2 people on the boat were hospitalized. The incident is under investigation by the Transportation Safety Board. We're asking you this half hour, as we head into the warmer season, what do boaters need to be aware of in BC this summer? How do you stay safe when you're on the water? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, and you can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca. Joining me now is Ian Gilson, Director with the Canadian Safe Boating Council, and Mike Derbyshire, Operations Manager with Deep Cove Kayak. Good afternoon to both of you. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us as well, Mike, via Zoom. Now, I should say there's a lot we don't know about this incident. The Transportation Safety Board is interviewing witnesses to figure out what happened. And a spokesperson for Harbour Air said one of its planes was carrying 5 passengers for a sightseeing tour. That float plane collided after takeoff from the seaplane terminal. It collided with a boat. So still under investigation. Ian, can you tell us a little bit about how that works generally when a float plane is taking off? What do boats generally in the area do? What does a float plane pilot need to do? How does that work safely?
Well, basically, when it comes to right-of-way, the vessel that is least maneuverable is the one that has right-of-way. And when a float plane is either landing or taking off, it cannot change its course. So any other objects on the water have the responsibility to give way and to stay well clear.
Is that generally known? Would all boaters know that? If you're a boat owner, if you're renting a boat for a day, how well known is that rule?
Obviously, there's not a lot of spots in Canada necessarily where you're having to deal with planes taking off and landing. However, in a lot of spots, including the West Coast, you've got larger ocean-going or lake vessels that are huge and are less maneuverable than smaller boats that are on the water recreationally. So they have the right of way, and the recreational boaters have to give way.
I mean, how much busier do these, the waters off, in Burrard Inlet, how much busier do they get generally? We're looking at the cruise ship season, shipping with Trans Mountain opening as well.
Well, it's interesting because with COVID, there was a significant increase in the number of boaters on the water, estimated at actually nationwide up to 16 million boaters that are getting out there and enjoying our waterways. And especially in areas where you have to share the waterway with larger vessels and float planes and other objects, you really have to keep top of mind as to what you're doing. And we had a collision in Ontario recently where a speedboat hit a fishing boat at 9:30 at night. So darkness does play another supporting factor in collisions.
Well, now you happen to be also a search and rescue volunteer with the Coast Guard Auxiliary.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so you're familiar with these situations. As far as I know, from what I could see on public commentary at the time, there seemed to be quick response on Saturday morning. Two tugboats apparently were there. A Port Authority vessel helped rescue the three people who were then taken to, this is from the boat, and then taken by ambulance to hospital for observation. What goes through your mind when you hear about these incidents and the one in Ontario that you were talking about?
Well, firstly, the Canada Shipping Act specifies that if you come upon something where aid is required, you are obligated by law to provide aid as long as it doesn't put you, your vessel, or your passengers in danger. So that's why you'll find in a situation where there's a collision or something of that nature, that you'll find a swarm of other boats will start heading there to provide assistance, be it people taking people out of the water and into their boats and into safety, or any other service that they can render.
That's very interesting. I actually want to ask Mike about that as well. You deal with things like kayaks and paddleboards. Interesting what Ian just said, because I was actually at Deer Lake in Burnaby, just a small little lake in the middle of the city, but it was quite busy with stand-up paddleboards and kayaks and pedal boats. And I saw someone fall off their stand-up paddleboard, and there were people around, and so another person just went over very quickly soon after and helped them because they were struggling to get back on. What should people on those human propelled vessels need to know as well? Oh, Mike, I'm sorry, you're either muted or something on our end, but we can't hear you at the moment.
Okay, how about now? I'm
There you are.
unmuted.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, we see obviously in places like Deep Cove and Jericho Beach where we operate, we see lots of people on the water, obviously a sunny weekend like we just had. And yeah, thankfully when there are more people out, there's lots of people to offer assistance if people do run into trouble, which is always great. But on the self-propelled things like kayaks and paddleboards, it's really about the safety equipment that you carry. Obviously, wearing your life jacket. For paddleboarding, wearing a leash, keeping yourself attached to your board is probably one of the bigger pieces of safety equipment that you can have out there, just so you don't lose track of your gear if you do fall off.
Okay, that goes around your ankle, is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay. Let's take a call here. We're asking you, what do boaters need to know about staying safe in the water? What do they need to be aware about, especially as we head into the summer season? And how do you yourself keep safe on the water? Our numbers are 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, and you can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. And Stephen is calling from Vancouver. Hi, Stephen.
Hello.
Hi, and so tell us about your experience or what you'd like to share.
I've been back and forth to that fuel dock that's just west of this area.
In Cole Harbour?
Probably a dozen times over, the past few years, the past decade, say. And I've traveled in and out of the marina there on sailboats going to weekly races for many, many years. And there is nothing on the water in the way of buoys or lights or signage to warn a boater that it is a takeoff and landing area. There is a boundary marked off on the nautical chart, the government-issued nautical chart that says seaplane landing area. I'm not sure what notes there are or restrictions there are for that area specifically. And then the Port of Vancouver has their safe boating guide that if you dig hard enough, you can find it on their website. And it delineates a slightly different area. And it's not as...
So it's not very clear.
Not as big. So and again, so you have to have either the chart in front of you from the government, or you have to have gone onto the port's website and looked up and found this. And even then, the port's website really isn't all that clear as to what restrictions or prohibitions or what actions boaters in that area are supposed to do when they find themselves there.
How do you compare that with other harbors?
Well, Victoria, the Port of Victoria, has flashing lights on shore. They've got buoys on the water. They've got a great chart diagram, and they've got basically intersections, places where boats are supposed to cross this area and only can do so when the lights aren't flashing. They turn the lights on shortly before a plane's going to arrive or land or take off. And there's similar U.S. models as well, where they've got buoys marking the area that, you know, they'll switch on to give boaters warning to get out of the area. And I'm really curious why there isn't. I mean, those areas are maybe have been more crowded in the past and maybe are a little bit more, well, I shouldn't say more restrictive, but I guess they are. But it seems to me, looking at how it's set up here in Vancouver, is that they're not asking really, not seriously asking boaters to do much of anything, and they're putting all the onus on the pilots, basically, and the air traffic controller who's up on the tower, you know, on the big building, looking down, has got a pretty good view of what's going on. So it's between the air traffic controller and the pilots to just wait until boats have gotten out of the way, totally oblivious to potentially to what's going on around them.
Okay.
And
so
I mean, granted, maybe it sounds like this is the first time something like this has happened, so it's sort of worked up until now. But it seems to me that there really should be a little bit more
signage
on the water in the way of
buoys,
controls and you know, and with the boaters themselves.
Stephen, thank you so much. I'm going to ask. I mean, we have a guest here from the Canadian Boating Council. In fact, so Boating Safety Council. Pardon me, Safe Boating Council. Ian Gilson is the director. What do you know about just how obvious it is when you're out on the water, what the delineated area is to keep far away from float planes?
Well, unlike the caller who seemed pretty well versed in the areas in which he boats, oftentimes you find that people will go out on a body of water and just say, hey, it's a great big open space, I can do what I want. There's an obligation to understand where you should and shouldn't go on any body of water before you actually head out. And you can find that out from as easy as going to a bait shop or boat dealership, and they'll just say, you know, I'm new to this area. Are there any areas that I need to be concerned about, or any of the goings on that I need to know about and make sure I look out for?
But could things be improved? As he said, he compared it to, you know, Victoria, where there are buoys and lights. You know, could that be improved as well, just as a reminder visually?
Most definitely. And oftentimes you find that it becomes a budget item for Transport Canada to get out there and lay out buoys or signage that would be more easily understood by people on the water. But yes, indeed, there are a lot of situations where there could be better delineation of areas that are safe or unsafe in which to boat.
Lucky wrote us an email. Another tip that some boaters forget is that when you're out on the water, you also need to shoulder check when you're turning left or right. Boats can seemingly come out of nowhere. Okay, Lucky, thank you very much. I'll go to you, Mike, because I imagine, you know, as Ian said, during, you know, at the start of the pandemic, there was just this explosion of the number of boaters suddenly on the waters, right? I imagine that popularity is the same when it comes to float boards and kayaks and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. You know, since the pandemic, we obviously saw outdoor activity participation increase. It also kind of lined up as well with just the popularity of inflatable watercraft. And the, you know, sort of easy accessibility of inflatable paddleboards and kayaks.
Find them at any store kind of thing.
Yeah, you can get them at the local grocery store. It seems like you can, you know, any big box store, you can get a paddleboard, you can order them online. So yeah, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Obviously, getting more people outdoors is great. But like Ian said, it's really about just trying to get more people to ask questions, seek local knowledge, and just get a little bit of information before they go out there.
What's your advice for beginners?
I think it's simply asking questions. It could be going on to like a social media forum or a Facebook group, finding other experienced paddlers. If you're paddling in a place like Deep Cove or Cates Park or Jericho Beach, where we have, kayak and paddleboard rental operations, you can come in and speak to our staff and find out what is the wind doing that day? Where is a good place to go based on the conditions? So just,
be aware.
Ask questions, get a little bit of info just to, be aware of what's going on out there before you head out.
Okay. And current conditions as well. Our numbers again, if you'd like to comment on water safety and boating safety specifically in light of a collision on Saturday morning, a float plane colliding with a boat in Cole Harbour in Vancouver. 2 people taken to hospital, and the passengers on the float plane were deemed to be okay. So the Transportation Safety Board is now investigating. So we're taking your calls on boating safety as waters get busier this time of year. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, and you can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Cody is on the line from Trail. Hi, Cody.
Michelle, my pleasure to talk to you as always. Good afternoon, Ian, and good afternoon, Mike.
Good afternoon to you, Cody. What are your thoughts on boating safety? What do you think people need to know?
My thoughts are, as we're a week away from summer, because officially the first day of summer is on June 21st. How I know that is because that's my birthday on that day.
Okay, happy birthday.
I'm thinking that boaters need to have some sort of air horn that will let other boaters know that if they're on the water, and that if because with the jet boats and the jet skis and the Sea-Doos and everything, if they go fast, the jet boats aren't going to know, or the boats aren't going to know that they're coming. So I think what they need to do is they need to have a short. They need to have an air horn, do 3 short blasts. That way, it can tell the other boater that you're getting getting too close.
Another warning, another warning system.
Some sort of warning.
Yeah.
And I think, and in lieu of the Harbour airplane, that the float plane that hit over the top of that boat. I'm wondering if Ian can, if you could put the question to Ian, should float planes be equipped with air horns or some sort of warning system?
Sure, an auditory warning system.
Yeah,
Cody, thank you so much.
Boaters know.
Nice to hear from you again, Cody. Happy birthday on the 21st. Ian, yes, we talked about visual signs. What about things that, like noisemakers, air horns, and things like that? Is that mandatory?
No, there's not to my knowledge. Is there any requirement to have an audible warning system that could be used by planes to say, "Hey, I'm about to take off"?
Okay.
And the other situation is, "Hey, I'm going to be landing," and they're really not going to be seen all that well until they actually hit the water.
Here's another email from Karen, and this is a good question. It's my understanding people who rent a boat do not need their boater's license. I live in Okanagan Lake, where many people rent boats in the summer. I'd feel much safer if they had to have their boater's license as well. Ian, can you shed light on that?
Yeah, as the council, we're really trying to push for making sure that people on the water renting boats actually have their pleasure craft operator card. And it's interesting because I spoke to the people at my marina who rent 18 houseboats, whether or not they feel that they're people who are wanting to rent boats should have a pleasure craft operator card. And they're saying no, they figured that would severely cut down on their customer base.
How do you feel about that?
Well, lives are more important.
Yeah.
When you get people out there in the water not knowing what they're doing, and as Mike indicated, you can buy paddlecraft in any big box store, and you just drive to the water and launch, and away you go without any knowledge really of what's going on.
Mike, is that something you'd call for, or is that too much to ask?
Yeah, I mean, logistically, it would certainly would be a challenge, especially on the paddlecraft side of things. But yeah, any way to increase, sort of the information and experience and knowledge people have before they hit the water would be, yeah, it would obviously benefit a lot of people. Similar in Deep Cove, I know our local marina there, I believe, has moved to only renting to those with a certification or with their pleasure craft operator too. So obviously some marinas maybe make the choice to do it on the safety side, and others, yeah, it's a hard business decisions to make for sure.
Yeah, interesting to see the difference, that it's kind of a patchwork of approaches. Really great to hear from you both. Good to hear your perspectives on this. Thank you for your time.
Oh, it's our pleasure. People, get out there and have a great time on the water. We love to see people out there on the water having a good time, but just do it responsibly.
A good and safe time. Yes, absolutely. Thanks for your time as well.
Thank you.
Ian Gilson, Director with the Canadian Safe Boating Council, and Mark Derbyshire, Operations Manager with Deep Cove Kayak. It's 12:27. Well, on Friday, we talked to you about WestJet's new UltraBasic fare. So this is an even lower economy fare that is basically no frills, that says you aren't able to carry on onto the plane unless you're traveling transatlantic or trans-Pacific flights. And it also means that you can't choose your flight. And we got a lot of reaction. Some people saying, I would pay more just to have more convenience and comfort. Others saying, yeah, I can fly very light if it means that I can save a few dollars, as cost of living is certainly increasing as a concern for everybody. We got a lot of emails from you as well. Maggie writes, I live in northern BC and Prince George is the closest airport. I looked at a fare to Vancouver with the new UltraBasic fare, and it was not much cheaper than previously. And without carry-on, a checked bag cost $47. It made me look at Air Canada, and their lowest fare was better than the UltraBasic and adding a bag. So I think I might be using Air Canada more now. That's from Maggie. And Mary writes from Sydney, I once went to Calgary for 2 days on Flair, and I only took a 16-inch backpack. My companions were amazed at what I packed into that small space. I even had breakfast supplies and a pair of shoes and a book. For short-haul flights over short times, I would gladly consider it. Flair made you pay in the seat as well, or to sit in the seat as well, but it sounds like that's not the situation with WestJet. Take it as a challenge and have fun with it. And we got another email here saying air travel is too often a luxury and always a significant impact on our climate crisis. If air travelers are inconvenienced, so be it. Thanks for your emails. bctoday@cbc.ca. Coming up in our next half hour of BC Today, we're going to talk about the Grouse Grind or any other really steep hikes that you might do. Another record for someone who is kind of a local legend when it comes to doing the Grouse Grind. He has done his 5,000th. That's right, 5,000 Grouse Grind. And so in light of that, we're asking you, how many times have you done the Grouse Grind? And what are your tips for completing the grind or another steep hike in BC? Love to hear from you. That's coming up in our next half hour here on BC Today. Right now, it's 12:30 Pacific time and time for your CBC News Update with Robert Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. Police in Kelowna are searching for a man after a woman was sexually assaulted in Mission Creek Regional Park. The victim told police she was walking alone on a trail yesterday when the unknown man grabbed her and attempted to sexually assault her. The woman was able to free herself, run away, and phone police. The suspect is described as a Caucasian man, approximately 50 to 60 years old, with short gray hair. The mayor of Harrison Hot Springs has resigned. Ed Wood has been clashing with councillors for the last 2 years, making it difficult to govern the village. The village now has to name an electoral officer who must call a by-election within 80 days. And the Transportation Safety Board is still looking into a collision in Vancouver's Cole Harbour this weekend. A small seaplane crashed into a boat, sending 2 boaters to hospital. Harbour Air says the plane had 5 passengers on board for a sightseeing tour and collided with a boat just after takeoff. And now the forecast on the north coast. Periods of rain this afternoon with a high of 13. Highs reaching 14 with a chance of showers and strong winds in the Peace. In the central interior, including Prince George, a bit of sunshine with a high of 20 degrees. Highs up to 28 and cloudy in the West Kootenay, a mix of sun and cloud in the East Kootenay. In the southern interior, including Kelowna, mainly sunny with a high of 27. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria, and the Fraser Valley, some sunshine this afternoon, windy in some areas with highs around 19. That's your CBC News update from Vancouver.
Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome.
We're talking about the Grouse Grind, and I know you have not done it yet.
That's correct. I have not.
Is it on your list at all?
It is not. No, that doesn't look like fun. It sounds like a bit of a grind.
Yes, it does.
Is that how they got the name?
They might have named it that because of just how steep it is and how much of a challenge it is.
Yeah, I have shaky knees, so that doesn't sound too good to me.
That's kind of where my thoughts go first. Whenever I hear how often someone has done it, I just think, oh, your poor knees. I am going to attempt it this month. That's my goal.
And have you done it before? Or
I have done part of it. I had to turn around because I wasn't a good planner.
Hey, you don't have to explain. You don't have to explain why you had to turn around, Michelle.
I didn't drink enough water that day.
It was good to get out there. You made it hot.
I didn't stretch enough.
Sure.
I'll make it this time, I promise.
Yes,
I'm going to get some
great.
tips in our next half hour, actually.
Super.
So I guess we won't convince you.
No, I'm going to stick to the seawall. Yeah,
there you
that's
go.
Flatter.
Yes,
and
it's a
pleasant.
wall.
It is.
It's not a grind.
No.
Rob, thank you.
You're welcome.
Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on BC Today. We are live on CBC Radio 1 right around the province and on CBC Television, as well live streaming. You can find us on the CBC News app. Just hit the video tab, or you can watch us on YouTube as well. Hello to you joining us from there. You can watch us on demand after the show on YouTube. Just search CBC Vancouver. Love to hear from you in our second topic as well. How many times have you done the Grouse Grind? Is it on your bucket list or not? And if you have any tips, you can call us. That's coming up. Okay, so my goal for this month is to complete my first completed full Grouse Grind. But imagine doing a few dozen, a few hundred, or in Jason Chong's case, his 5,000th Grouse Grind. That's right, 5,000. That is what happened yesterday. And Grouse Mountain tweeted this: history was made today as local legend Jason Chong celebrated completing his 5,000th Grouse Grind. Congratulations, Jason. And he holds the record for the most Grouse Grinds. Now, if you don't know, okay, so the Grouse Grind, why is it called the Grouse Grind? It is, in fact, one of BC's most famous hikes because of how steep it is. About a 2.5 kilometer climb on the face of Grouse Mountain in North Vancouver with an 800-meter elevation. And it is lovingly or loathfully known as Mother Nature's Stairmaster. We'd like to hear from you now. How many times have you completed the Grouse Grind? What are your tips for finishing the grind or another steep trail in BC? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your phone too, or email bctoday@cbc.ca. My guest is Jordan Gannett, professor at UBC's Faculty of Medicine's Department of Physical Therapy. He's Associate Research Director of the Center for Heart-Lung Innovation. He is also an avid Grouse Grind climber. Just the right guest for this. Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us. How many times have you completed the Grouse Grind?
I don't actually keep track, but if I were to take a guess, it's probably around 500 times. And in the winter time, I'll typically do the BCMC trail, which runs right beside the grind. And I've probably done that one maybe 300 times or so.
Oh my
Nothing
God.
close to Jason.
No, but once you can say you've lost track of how many times you've done it, I think that's something to write home about. Okay, and so the BCMC is the parallel trail, a lot kind of rougher, right?
Yeah, but they've done quite a bit of work over the years. It's looking more and more like the grind. It's a bit longer in distance and a bit more runnable at the top.
What went through your mind, when you heard about Jason Chong's record, 5,000 as of yesterday?
He is a local legend. What an unbelievable achievement, 5,000. I don't know who's going to break that, but I think it's going to take quite a while.
Yes, I think he's far ahead of the person right behind him, who's not right, in fact, right behind him. But yeah, it's going to take a while for someone else to complete that same number and break that record. For you, I mean, what got you to 500? Do you remember the first time that you did it?
I think I did in my early 20s. I was a cyclist at the time. I never really paid too much attention to the number of grinds that I was doing. I was more trying to get faster at the grind.
Huh.
That was more of my focus and goal.
Okay, but what was it that drew you to it in the first place?
Cross training. As a runner and a cyclist, the Grouse Grind is one of the best cross training methods to build endurance and strength, and it translates so well to all endurance sports, whether it's cross-country skiing, cycling, running, and so on. So it's a very good way of staying injury-free. There's not a lot of load and impact on the grind. And so I initially did it as cross-training and then just became more into it and started doing it more and participating in some of the grouse mountain races like the Grouse Grind mountain run that typically happens in August or September.
Okay, injury-free. Is it really? Because they get many calls there as well, don't they, from search and rescue? Or for search and rescue?
Yeah, those are more acute injuries. I'm thinking like you're probably not going to get a stress fracture in some of your bones doing it, right? And when you are injured in running, let's say, whether you have knee issues or other issues, typically the Grouse Grind is actually quite an effective way to keep your fitness up while you're recovering from those injuries.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I wasn't aware of that it's used by athletes in other sports, whether you're a cyclist or anything like that, but it's to build your own endurance, of course, and strength. Okay. So why don't you take us through what is it you are enduring when you do the Grouse Grind? What is it like? What's the challenge?
I mean, there are a lot of challenges with the grind. It really depends on your goal. If you're trying to go for a really fast time, the challenge is going to be quite different than just trying to complete it. So if your goal is to complete it, I would say the most important thing is just take your time. If you've never done it before, it is a long hike. Be prepared, have some fluids, have some fuel. Don't be afraid to take regular breaks. But as you become more comfortable, you can start setting more ambitious goals like time targets. Let's say you want to break 90 minutes or break an hour, or whatever the time goal may be. And then you can start implementing effective strategies to get fitter and to be able to reach those times.
Okay, what did you do to improve your times?
I think the one thing a lot of people tend to do is when they go do the grind, let's say they're going a few days a week, they just kind of go steady effort all the time at the same pace. But we know through exercise physiology principles, it's really important to vary the intensity. So sure, doing a couple of very easy low intensity grinds a week is great, but you also want to incorporate some higher intensity training. So for example, what I typically do is I'll do at least a couple of sessions a week where I'm working pretty hard on the grind. And what I typically do is high intensity interval training. So you break up the grind. So you could do something like 6 times 5 minutes really hard, and then you dial it back for a couple minutes going really easy. You can do shorter intervals like 30 to 60 seconds to really build that explosive power and strength. And all of that allows the body to adapt to the training load. And when you go and try to do a fast time, you're going to be a lot better prepared and more likely to reach your goal.
I know that this is, kind of a badge of honor to be able to do it quickly. The usual or sort of the average is what, an hour and a half?
Yeah, that sounds about right. In Vancouver, we've got a pretty fit community here. So I think your recreational person, maybe 90 minutes, but there are quite a large number of folks that can break an hour on the grind.
Right. And how about yourself? What's your record?
My best time is 26 high, like 26:50, right around there.
26:50?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. And is that just going full on the whole time then?
It's an all-out effort. I mean, it's so critical on the grind to pace yourself, but you want to hold a hard, steady effort from bottom to top. No breaks. It's intense for sure.
Okay, let's put the numbers out there right now. We are asking you about the Grouse Grind, given that the person who holds the record for the most grinds completed has just completed his 5,000th Grouse Grind. Yeah, this is really something that there's a whole community all around this. They all, we made calls this morning trying to find people to talk to, and everybody knew about Jason Chong completing his 5,000th Grouse Grind. So we'd like to hear from you. Is it a goal for you this summer or ever? Have you done it yourself, and how many times? And what are your tips for doing, the Grouse Grind or another steep hike in BC, whether it's in the Lower Mainland or outside in the interior, the north, or the island? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, and you can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. If you'd like to email us, our email address is bctoday@cbc.ca. And before we go to calls, I'm just going to go back to my guest, Jordan Gannett, who is an avid grouse grinder, has done about 500 grouse grind hikes. He's a professor at UBC's Faculty of Medicine's Department of Physical Therapy and Associate Research Director for the Center for Heart-Lung Innovation. A lot of it is psychological as well, isn't it? For yourself, yeah, go ahead, Jordan.
Oh, no, absolutely. There's a huge psychological element. Once you kind of reach your physiological limits, the psychology plays a huge role. For example, with me, if I don't hit my quarter splits that I was expecting, sometimes that can demoralize you and it can throw you off your rhythm.
What's a quarter split, just for people who don't know?
Yeah, so the Grouse Grind Trail has 4 quarter markings that, they're based on elevation. And so you'll hit the first quarter and there's a blue sign that says first quarter.
Right.
And then there's a halfway mark, 3/4, and then at the top, of course. So some people will get their splits at those quarter markers just to see if they're on pace. And if they're off pace, then it can be hard to get motivated to get back on.
How do you keep that motivation?
It's tough when you're not reaching your goals in the middle of a hard effort. But the thing is, if you go too hard on the grind, you'll really suffer. So if you don't hit your target time to that first quarter, it's usually not that big of a deal. It means you might have some energy left in the tank to push a little later on the trail. So that's what I typically tell myself is I'll make up the time during the latter half of the grind.
Oh, okay. So you just say you can keep going, and if you're worried about your time, you can make it up at the latter half, because that first quarter is the hardest. Is that right?
It's the longest in terms of duration. Yeah, but it's not necessarily the steepest. So there are steeper sections that can be quite challenging.
Okay, I'm going to ask you for tips for me later on as well. We'll put out the numbers again, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. Tell us about your experience doing the Grouse Grind. What are your tips? And if there's another steep trail that you prefer, because some people say, well, there's no view. I'd rather do a hike that has a beautiful view as well as a challenge. You can let us know if there's an alternative. 1-800-825-5950. Nikki is calling us from Port Moody. Hi there, Nikki.
Hi, y'all.
All right. Have you done the Grouse Grind?
I've done it twice. The first time I did it was just after I moved here. I grew up in Ontario, lived in Calgary for almost 10 years, and then I moved here. And a couple of years after I came here, I went with a friend of mine who's like, oh, this is a great hike. Yeah, we could do this great hike. So you can kind of tell how this is going to go.
Oh, do tell us.
So I went, and she's fit, and I was, fit-ish with a bit of floof. And
that's like me. Yeah.
You know, it is what it is, right? So we start. I'm going to call it hiking because that's what I thought was happening, and we were going up, and I went, oh my God, we must be like halfway there, right? And then I see that huge sign that says, "Welcome to the Grouse Grind." Literally a couple of hundred of meters, and that's it. And I was like, oh my God. So I'm parked at Rocky Point Ice Cream right now.
That's a much better activity. Yeah.
But it is lovely. And I do the occasionally, and I should really do it more often, but just broke my toe. So, hey, the Coquitlam Crunch.
I was going to say the Coquitlam Crunch is, yes, that's right.
Yeah, and I've been lapped on that one too.
That is, hey, no shame in that. No shame in that at all. Well, go ahead.
As far as view, yes. And it's one thing to walk. I talked to a friend yesterday about this. She likes to walk because she doesn't have to watch routes and stuff. But there was something about it, which is why I did it a second time. 25 years ago. That it's an accomplishment.
It sure is.
And it's precious. And yeah, it was really lovely.
Oh, that's so great. What a great memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll probably do it again.
Yes, I think when that toe gets better, you can get up there.
Yes.
Yeah. Great
Thanks
story.
So much. Have a great day.
Yeah. Nice to hear from you, Nikki. Thank you very much. I love that. Yes, it is. For me, it was like, wow, we must be almost there. And then you see the first quarter sign. That can be demoralizing for sure. Any thoughts on her story there? So say you're invited by a friend. This happens a lot, right? Friends just go, let's go do it. It's easy, or it's really fun. And you don't quite know what to expect, but you are, you'd like to be part of that group and just want to spend time with your friend. What advice would you have for someone who this just kind of gets sprung up on?
I would just be super encouraging. It can be very intimidating. It's a demanding trail, as you know, but just be supportive. I think doing it with a partner helps with the accountability piece. I know when I'm training in the winter time, it's very cold, it's raining, and it's tough to get motivated to get out of bed to do an early morning grind. But when you've got your friends out there waiting for you, you're going to make it. And so that accountability piece, I think, is a really motivating factor to do it when it's not nice out.
Actually, and that's a good point that you raise as well. So depending on the weather, right now, for example, what should be your proper attire?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to depend, of course, on the weather. In the winter time, you'll have spikes and obviously warmer clothing. In this nice weather that we've been having, shorts and a t-shirt are more than adequate. Good pair of trail running shoes. I've seen everything from flip-flops to people going bare feet.
Bare
not
feet.
Ideal. So yes, there's a gentleman that does it without any shoes on. So yeah, proper footwear that has a little bit of grip, I think, would be helpful. And depending on how long you're going to be out there for, you could have like a running vest, for example, carry some fluids, maybe a gel or a bar, something to keep the fuel up.
Okay, that's really important too. Diana is on the line in Burnaby. Hi, Diana.
Hey, Michelle.
What's your experience with the Grouse Grind?
Oh, it's interesting. So first time when I moved to Vancouver to do my master's at UBC, I heard about that hike, and I said, you know what, I should probably do it. And that was the time when my mom happened to visit me, and she said, let's do it together. And she's mid-68 and very fit, fairly, but she has heart condition. And I didn't know how severe is the hike. So we went together. We were, dressed properly, got lots of water with us. And after the first quarter, she started complaining that she's having a heart episode.
Oh, dear.
And I got really scared, so we stopped, and other hikers helped us. There was snow on the ground, so they put a little bit of snow around her face because her lips become blue, like really blue. And I was panicking. Shall we call 911? How they can even lift her up and all this? Anyway, she calmed down. We stayed for probably half an hour, and she recovered, and we kept going. We have to keep going because there's no way we'll go down.
Right.
And it took us about 2 hours to get to the top. But she was very proud of herself. She wasn't mad at me. And so I did it after that 9 more times. And every time I stop at that particular stop and say, thank you, God, for, saving my mother. Not happening such a, disaster. Wow. But it's a hard hike. But at the same time, I love doing it. I did it 9 times. I felt like I accomplished something.
Absolutely. And wow, I'm so glad to hear that your mom was okay after that and even finished it. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, she finished it.
And you've done it 10 times now.
Yeah, exactly.
Congratulations, Diana.
Yeah.
And do you have a tip, by the way? Do you have a tip for people?
People say time is, the time is such an issue. When you do it in the beginning, don't worry about how much time you're going to take. It's an accomplishment. And when you get to the last one, you see the top, it's such a satisfaction to see that you really made it. And, up there you can treat yourself with coffee, and just take your time. It's a nice hike. It's not an easy hike, but just do it. I will say it's not that scary. If my middle 60-age mom did it, you can do it. Everybody can do it.
I'm on my way. Diana, thank you very much.
Do it. You're welcome.
Diana and Burnaby, I'd love to get your thoughts on that, Jordan, just to, touch on if you have a heart condition or what you should watch out for, given your expertise as well.
Again, the grind is so demanding. This isn't the type of thing you should do without consulting a physician if you do have any kind of chronic cardiorespiratory disease. So if in this particular case, I would have felt better if she had gotten physician clearance to do that. So it's quite important because the challenge with the grind is once you're halfway up there, it's really hard to get you out. So you want to make sure that you do have the health to be able to do that. The nice thing about the grind is that it's quite busy in some respects. So there will be people there that can help, call 911 if necessary. But yeah, physician clearance is a really good idea, particularly for older people that have chronic conditions.
Very good advice. Ian is up next in Victoria now. Hi, Ian.
Hello. Nice to hear about my trail.
Your trail. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I grew up in North Van at the top of Lonsdale, and I used to ride the chairlift to my ski lessons.
Oh, yeah?
And so I've done the chairlift probably 100 times.
Oh, beautiful.
I walked the trail. I couldn't tell you how many times I've done it, several hundred times over the years. And having a lot of fun doing that. But has anybody mentioned the jet crash to the right of the trail? That's a good thing to go visit as well sometimes.
Okay, so are you telling me that you've done the Grouse Grind several hundred times?
Yes.
Wow. And this was and you lived in North Vancouver, you grew up there.
Yeah, quite a lot of the times we would walk from basically top of Lonsdale over up Skyline and then take the grind. And that was a Saturday. You leave in the morning, go up to the top of Grouse, play around up there, and then walk back again.
Yeah, right. And at the time, you probably could walk back. Tell us about this this site, this a bit of a spot to do some sightseeing.
We used to go by counting the tower numbers, and around Tower 28 to the right, there's a jet crash from the late 50s.
Wow.
And you can just walk over a couple hundred feet, and there was the whole jet basically sitting there.
Oh, my goodness. Do you know the history of it?
Crawl through the wreckage. Sorry?
Do you know the history of it?
Yeah, big stormy day. Vancouver Airport told them to fly around, and they flew around and missed their altimeter, and instead of going over Grouse, they flew into Grouse, sadly.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. And it's still there, or what? I wonder.
Pieces of it are still there, yeah.
Well, thank you for telling us about it.
Yeah, it's nice to hear people talking about it.
Yeah.
I actually, on a side note, I actually built about 1,500 feet of the Baden-Powell Trail.
You did?
Yeah, that was part of my Boy Scout training way back in the middle 70s.
Oh, my goodness. Hats off to you, Ian, because I do parts of that trail. And yeah, it is such a great trail and well-maintained. Thank you.
I've done end-to-end on that many times, and I think my My PB is about 10 and a half hours, which is nothing to shout about, but I've done it.
It's sure. No, you shout about your personal best. Ian, thank you very much. And thanks for your work on the Baden-Powell Trail. I'm going to squeeze in just very quickly, Julia in North Vancouver, because you have some tips, safety tips. So go ahead, please.
Hi. I've been doing the grind in the BCMC for decades. When I first moved to North Vancouver, I went to a talk by Tim Jones, the North Shore Search and Rescue
Absolutely.
fellow. And he emphasized the importance of having the 10 essentials with you, even if you're doing the grind. Because as he said, you're not in the urban environment. If you need help, even a turned ankle, it's going to take a lot of effort to get you out of there.
Yeah.
And what I want to remind people is, don't be so casual about, I'm so concerned about my time. I don't want to carry a jacket. I don't want to carry extra water. Because if somebody needs help, the people coming to help you are sacrificing time with their families and everything to go help you.
Yes.
So have some consideration for the people who are going to have to come and help you if
you're stuck.
You're being lazy about the stuff you should have with you. Like I've helped people up the grind a number of times who didn't have the right gear.
Yeah, thank you for that, Julia. Very important to have the right gear, extra clothes, water. And I got an email a while back from BC Adventure Smart. You can go to their website. They have a video for preparing for the Grouse Grind Trail as well. So that's BC Adventure Smart is where you can go. Jordan, thank you so much for your time. And when's your next Grouse Grind?
Tomorrow morning.
Have fun. That's
Thank
Jordan.
you for having me.
Jordan Gannett, professor at UBC's Faculty of Medicine in the Department of Physical Therapy, associate research director at the Center for Heart-Lung Innovation. Doing the Grouse Grind tomorrow.